It's Thursday, March 24. In the headlines, Jamaica heading towards becoming a republic, consumers to pay more for gas, royals to leave the island today. Regionally, the UN opens up office in Antigua. And in sports, West Indies feeling confident they can win the series. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom Gale.
We are moving on, and we intend to attain in short order our development goals and fulfill our true ambitions and destiny as an independent, developed, prosperous country.
This was the announcement made by Prime Minister Andrew Holness as he spoke to their Royal Highnesses, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, during a courtesy call on the Prime Minister Wednesday morning.
Jamaica is a very free and liberal country, and the people are very expressive, and I'm certain that you would have seen the spectrum of expressions yesterday. There are issues here which are, as you would know, unresolved. But your presence gives an opportunity for those issues to be placed in context, put front and center, and to be addressed in as best as we can.
The announcement comes as Jamaica is about to celebrate its 60th year of independence in August. The move towards becoming a republic is highlighted as part of the role of the new Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. It's to oversee and advise the government on the way forward in the transition towards becoming a republic. Minister Marlene Malahoo Ford, who was the country's former Attorney General, is heading up that ministry. For Jamaica to make this move, the Constitution has provisions that require a referendum, allowing the electorate to vote on the proposal before it heads to the legislature. The amendment would then have to be approved by a 2/3 majority in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. This will mean the Queen of England will be removed as the head of state. What remains unclear is what kind of republic Jamaica will be. Their Royal Highnesses arrived in Jamaica on March 22 for a 3-day official visit to the island as part of activities to celebrate the Platinum Jubilee of Her Majesty, the Queen. This has been marred by protests led by the Advocates Network, who on Tuesday staged a protest outside the British High Commission.
I'm here today calling for a better Jamaica. The better Jamaica that I'm calling for not necessarily mean just reparations. Jamaica needs a wholesome development.
They shouldn't be welcomed as leaders of the country, as representatives of the head of state. And it's time for us to move forward and talk about the democratic process.
His Royal Highness, while addressing a state dinner held at King's House on Wednesday night, expressed his sorrow for what is seen as a stain in the history of black people.
With the International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade, I strongly agree with my father, the Prince of Wales, who said in Barbados last year that the appalling atrocity of slavery forever stains our history. I want to express my profound sorrow. Slavery was abhorrent, and it should never have happened. While the pain runs deep, Jamaica continues to forge its future with determination, courage, and fortitude.
Their Royal Highnesses, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, had high praises for Shortwood Teachers College for the work it is doing to shape the country's early childhood education system. The couple toured the institution on Wednesday and interacted with enthusiastic faculty and staff who warmly welcomed them to the institution. In her address to students and staff, the Duchess commended the institution's leaders for their contributions to the education sector in its over 100-year history. She's quoted saying, "It is so wonderful to hear your ideas and enthusiasm for teaching and the gift you have to influence the lives of young people." End quote. Noting the significance of the education in a child's formative years, the Duchess says, quote, "You, as teachers, are at the front line of this vital work and play a crucial role in shaping our societies by positively impacting the futures of literally thousands of young people over the course of your careers." End quote. The Royal Highnesses also paid a visit to the Spanish Town Hospital on Wednesday and was greeted by Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bissessa Mackenzie upon arrival. The couple also exchanged pleasantries with Executive Officer of the hospital, Jacqueline Ellis, and the hospital's Senior Medical Officer, Jacqueline Wright James. Spanish Town Hospital is the largest Type B hospital on the island and has statistics comparable to the Kingston Public Hospital, the island's major referral hospital, which is a Type A facility. The hospital is located in St. Catherine, the fastest growing parish on the island. Their Royal Highness's visit to Shortwood Teachers College and Spanish Town Hospital is part of a schedule of activities for their official visit to Jamaica from March 22 to March 24. The official visit forms part of celebrations marking the 70th anniversary of the coronation of Her Majesty, the Queen. The royals depart Jamaica today, making their way to the Bahamas. Jamaicans will see a price increase in gas prices today, Thursday, March 24. E1087 gasoline will now be sold at $186.98 per litre. 90-octane gasoline is to be sold for $191.98. The Ministry of Justice will partner with the Jamaica Constabulary Force in its public education campaign on the use of alternative dispute resolution methods. Approximately $100 million is being provided through the Ministry of Finance to fund the campaign and other restorative justice activities. The aim is to build awareness of other peaceful ways of settling disputes outside of the courts. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck says the team will engage community members of the services and share the successes of the program.
I'm not too sure if we're looking and aiming for peace that the court system is necessarily where we're going to get it. And that is why I will be launching shortly a very strong campaign for ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution. Because not only will it help to reduce the number of cases in the court, but it will also help to deliver justice within communities.
Minister Chuck was speaking recently at the launch of the International University of the Caribbean Peace Institute and Extended Learning Center. He says the public education campaign will seek to address various disputes and emphasize the effectiveness of ADR methods to provide redress and restore relationships. Two orders that will increase the national minimum wage and the minimum wage for industrial security guards were approved by the House of Representatives on Tuesday. These orders were piloted by the Minister of Labour and Social Security, Carl Samuda. The proposed increases are to become effective April 1, 2022.
The national minimum wage, therefore, is to be increased from $7,000 to $9,000 per 40-hour work week, or from $175 to $225 per hour. The minimum wage for industrial security guards to be increased from $9,700 to $10,500 per 40-hour work week, or from $242.50 to $262.50 per hour.
Mr. Samuda also broke down the increases for industrial security guards.
Laundry allowance for industrial security guards to be increased from $44 per hour to $47.62 per hour. Firearm premium allowance payable to industrial security guards to be increased from $48 per hour to $51.95 per hour. Dog handlers premium allowance payable to industrial security guards to be increased from $33 per hour to $35.72 per hour. The cost of insurance coverage to employers payable on account of industrial security guards who are killed or injured in the line of duty, to be increased from $2,750,000 to $2,976,000.
The minister says the new rates resulted from recommendations from the National Minimum Wage Commission, which were submitted to the ministry following public consultations, and several factors were taken into consideration at arriving at the new rates. Cabinet has approved to exempt lithium-ion batteries from General Consumption Tax, GCT. This was announced by Minister of Finance and Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark.
We recognize that lithium-ion batteries are rechargeable batteries and used as the primary component of its electrolyte. It's commonly used for portable electronics and electric vehicles, and their popularity has been growing as an energy storage technology, which should help to reduce the costs associated with generation of electricity. So, Madam Speaker, we are going to, the Ministry has sought and obtained Cabinet's approval to exempt lithium-ion batteries from GCT to be implemented in the first quarter of 2022-2023.
Students who benefit from the Program of Advancement through Health and Education, PATH, will see an increase in their monthly allocation. That's the word from Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark.
Madam Speaker, in addition, we will increase the allocation towards transportation assistance for students on PATH by 40%. This will cost an additional $152 million.
The Finance Minister made the announcement as he closed the budget debate in Parliament this week. You should know that the Program of Advancement through Health and Education, PATH, was introduced as a conditional cash transfer program targeting vulnerable households within the population. The objectives of the program are to increase educational attainment and improve health outcomes of the poor by breaking the intergenerational cycle of poverty, alleviate poverty by increasing the value of transfer to the poor, reduce child labor by requiring children to have minimum attendance in school, serve as a safety net by preventing families from falling further into poverty in the event of adverse shock. Next, we have the latest market updates in the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
Motorists should see an increase at the pumps in gas and diesel prices effective Thursday, March 24, according to the latest reports from Petrojam. 87 and 90 octane gasoline will see a $3.06 increase and will be sold for $186.98 and $191.97 per liter respectively. Automotive diesel fuel will be sold for $192.45 per liter after a $4.50 increase. Continuing with the $4.50 increase, ultra-low sulfur diesel will be sold for $196.93 per liter. Meanwhile, kerosene increased in price by $4.50 will be sold for $167.05 per liter. Propane liquid petroleum will be sold for $78.80 per liter, down by $3.06. And butane liquid petroleum will be sold for $89.74 per liter after a decrease of $1.32. It is important to remember to be on the lookout for price changes, as marketing companies and retailers will add their own markup to these prices. In foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, March 23, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.97. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $122.95. The pound sterling traded for $203.69, and the euro sold for an average of $171.66. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Wednesday's trading session. The JSE index advanced by 642 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 6 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 662 points to close at over 300,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 1,681 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 108 stocks, of which 52 advanced, 46 declined, and 10 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, 1834 Investments Limited, and Barbuda Investments Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and CAC 2000 9.5% Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, ISP Finance Services Limited, and Jetcon Corporation Limited. Radio Jamaica Limited was the volume leader with over 11 million units, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 8 million units and JMMB Group Limited with over 5 million units. In regional stocks in Trinidad and Tobago, Clicker Investment Fund was the volume leader with over 26,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with 144 shares being traded. The Barbuda Stock Exchange saw 0 securities being traded on Wednesday. The rising fuel prices have not only been affecting the energy sector, but also the food sector, as concerns are being raised about price gouging. In Belize, manager of the Belize Poultry Association, BPA, Armando Coa, says price gouging had occurred during the last adjustment period when the cost per pound of chicken went up by 8 Belize cents.
Even though we're doing the adjustment, let us not try to be gouged by other people who are out there who are intermediaries in the process, who buy bulk and then sell it to you on a retail level, and then you in turn sell it to your end consumer at a higher level. If the price of chicken, let's say for example, goes up 10 cents a pound, when you serve a plate of rice and beans, you don't sell a pound of chicken on that plate of rice and beans. So don't use that as an excuse to say, well, I care up the price because the price of chicken got up. We've heard that before with the last increase that we did, and hoping that things would have gotten better and we will be able to readjust the price downwards. Now we are being faced with an upwards adjustment. But we're asking our people out there who consume the product to be patient with us. It's not something that we intentionally are doing or trying to gouge more money out of your pocket. Rather, what we're trying to do is save the industry.
In market data for oil prices were studied on Thursday as the US president and other Western leaders and investors waited to see how sanctions would be tightened on Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. Benchmark Brent was up $3.34 at $121.95 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate rose $3 at $114.96 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denida Rodney.
In news from across the region, we start with Guyana. The government has announced a reduction in the excise price of gas and diesel due to the impact of the rising cost of living. Gordon Mosley has this story.
With the impact of the rising cost of living being felt across the country, the government of Guyana has announced a further reduction in the excise tax on gas and diesel from the current 10% to 0%. It is the latest reduction in the excise tax on fuel in an attempt to cushion the effects of the increase in the global price for oil. Earlier this year, the government in its national budget announced a reduction in the same excise tax on gas and diesel from 20% to 10%. The prices went down for a few weeks and increased past the previous high price when the global price for oil started to surge. The announcement today by the Vice President is expected to see a minimal reduction at the pump, as the local companies remind that the oil prices are still high on the international market. One official said the reduction could be around $10 or just over $10 less per litre. The local oil companies are also still to receive any directive from the Ministry of Finance about the announced reduction. The officials said they will act to institute the reduced prices once the official directive is received from the Ministry of Finance. The government has been facing ongoing calls for it to take steps to reduce the high cost of living being experienced by citizens across the country. In the past few months, the prices for various items, including food items, have risen exponentially, with many of the companies blaming the increases on the global situation, with shipping costs and fuel costs rising steadily. The opposition has also called on the government to move swiftly and implement additional measures to ensure an ease for citizens who are being hit hard by the price increases.
In Barbados, the Caribbean and other small developing countries are reeling from the loss of correspondent banking capacity. Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, says this incident has made it difficult for huge sectors of these countries' populations to take part in global commerce, which is conducted through the US and Chinese-based digital platforms. More from CBC Barbados.
We in developing countries have been talking about the loss of correspondent banking capacity for years, and that you cannot live in this world without having access to banking services. If not, you are literally a leper or a pariah. But yet, the world takes glee, almost, in passing and putting all kinds of lists, the consequences of which are to put our countries literally on their knees with respect to access to banking and financial services. You cannot have exclusion of people on the basis of this without causing serious damage to human beings and trade in our small countries. But what we've discovered is that even if the sum of 500 billion in SDRs annually for 20 years appears to be a bridge too far, then we should at least settle on the first 500 billion, which in lending to the private sector could unlock at least another $2 to $3 trillion needed to get the ball rolling. And if it proves to be successful, then we go at it again and again and again until we can settle the world's preparation for this climate crisis through our ability to mitigate and to adapt accordingly.
In Antigua and Barbuda, the country has opened a UN multicultural office with the aim of deepening the country's ties. ABC News has the details.
It is a historic moment for Antigua and Barbuda as the country's diplomatic ties with the United Nations deepen further with the establishment of a UN multi-country office.
1, 2, cut.
This office, UN Common Premises, would have come about from the MCO reform in 2019 in order for them to really bring their programmatic offerings closer, especially with key national stakeholders within the various ministries.
The office is the first of its kind for the OECS and Barbados sub-region. Antigua and Barbuda's permanent representative to the United Nations, Dr. Aubrey Webson, was instrumental in the establishment of the official UN premises. Having
Experienced the lessons from Hurricane Irma, every member here representing an agency knows how vociferous I was in my advocacy for the United Nations agencies to be closer to the people on the ground so that they could respond faster and more effectively.
In a few weeks, the Central Office will become the new home for the United Nations Development Programme, or UNDP, United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, and the Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO.
Also plans on the way for more UN agencies to join, for example with UN Habitat, under a new adaptation fund endeavor, and possibly others, and I encourage those being with us tonight to follow the momentum.
Rakib Aparicio reporting for ABS News.
In sports, a minimum 100-run partnership between opening batsmen and early wickets. That's what head coach Phil Simmons believes will give West Indies a fighting chance to win the crucial third and final test against England today, March 24. With the first two matches of the series ending in draws, the two sides will be battling at the Grenada National Stadium to lift the newly minted Richards Botham Trophy in the Apex Test Series. Simmons says both batsmen and bowlers will need to play key roles with the series on the line. In a separate interview, West Indies skipper Craig Brathwaite, who has been an inspiration in the series with a monumental performance on home soil in Barbados, scores of 160 and 56 not out as he batted a marathon 16 hours and faced a whopping 673 balls, said he was confident in his squad's ability to clinch the series. Brathwaite has called on fans to come out and show their support for the home team. Sprint legend Usain Bolt is set to release his new digital NFT collection today, March 24. In a post on his Instagram account, Bolt shared that the collection is a combination of 5 of his records set to the backdrop of his favorite songs from his debut album, Country Youths. Usain Bolt tracks and records will highlight his runs of 9.72 seconds, 9.69 seconds, and 9.63 seconds in the 100 meters. His current world records of 9.58 in the 100 meters and 19.19 in 200 meters are also part of the project. A non-fungible token of NFT is a non-interchangeable unit of data stored on a blockchain, a form of digital ledger that can be sold and traded. And with that, we call an end to today's newscast. On behalf of our entire production team, thank you so much for watching.